podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
No brakes. No brakes. No fear. No fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome along. I'm Ian Brannan. Great to be back with you, and another busy week in Speedway it has been. We've got loads on the way. I'm joined by the editor of the Speedway Star magazine, Andrew Skeels, for a little look at what goes into making the Speedway Star and how do you keep a magazine like that going through a season like last year when there's not much Speedway. A couple of key announcements from clubs over this last week who are struggling with the current situation with the restrictions. Most notably, Birmingham and Wolverhampton. We will hear from the Wolves owner, Chris Van Straaten.
I've been custodian of this club for 32 years, and it's important that, it just doesn't collapse now.
We've also got reaction from Monday's big fixture, which was live on TV, a great advert for the sport, some fantastic racing between Peterborough and Wolves. We'll hear from Rob Lyon and Peter Adams.
No, as long as he has his cottage pie for lunch, he's ready for anything.
Absolutely, great advice. We're also going to be previewing the Speedway Grand Prix qualifier in Glasgow. We've got chats with Chris Harris, Dale Allett, Jake Knight, Michael Palm Toft, Sam Masters and Ulrich Ostergaard, all on the way.
No brakes, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Joining me to chat through some of the issues affecting Speedway this week is somebody who's very firmly got his finger on the pulse of everything that's happening in Speedway, because he's the editor of the Speedway Star, which, whilst there have been many Speedway publications over the years, there's one that's lasted longer. I don't think there's another Speedway publication in the world that has the following and the respect of the Speedway Star. And he is the editor. He's Andrew Skeels. Hi, Andy. Great to have you along with us.
Hi, Ian.
Would that be fair to say? I think Speedway Star is one constant in an ever-changing sport, really.
Yes, well, I think you could say that, couldn't you? We'll be our 70th birthday in March next year, assuming we make it.
Is it really? Wow. Okay.
Yes, it was March 1952 was the first ever issue, so I don't think Eric Linden, who founded it and who sadly died last year, but he probably never imagined that it would still be going 70 years later when he started in 1952, I'm sure. But we're still here somehow. I think we are probably part of the fabric of the sport to an extent, aren't we? So hopefully we'll get another 70 years out of it.
Well, happy birthday in advance. I'm sure there'll be more about that nearer the time. But an incredible publication that has grown over that time and how the sport has changed. But I suppose what hasn't changed is that people want to know what's happening in the sport. Talk us through what goes into putting together an episode of the Speedway Star, each edition on the week, because it is a weekly cycle. You're published on a Thursday, but a lot of the work goes into the space of a few days from my experience of people like Peter Oakes and Nigel Pearson and various other reporters are always really busy across the weekend putting stuff together for the Speedway Star, aren't they? What's the timeline for each week?
Yeah, well, it's probably been funny because last year through the pandemic, we had no racing, obviously. So
yes.
It was very difficult bringing out a weekly Speedway magazine with no Speedway in this country, but it probably kind of changed a bit of how we worked in a way, in that a lot more of it was possible to do it before the weekend, whereas now, obviously, thankfully, we've got Speedway back again, and since last month when the league's restarted, a lot more of our work is compressed into the weekend because you could be waiting for meetings to happen and things like that. So it's kind of changed back to how it was, really, late nights Sunday and late nights on a Monday, and we go to press on a Tuesday. So I think it's probably, we'd much prefer it the way it is now, obviously with having some Speedway on, but in terms of workload, it was definitely easier last year.
Yeah, unfortunately, it probably was a little bit, but not ideal at the same time. And covering the amount of clubs, there is a lot to cover in British Speedway, and weekends can be a lot busier some weeks than others. And you've got a trusted network of reporters across the country that some of which have been around for a long time, and some younger upcoming reporters as well.
Well, that's right. I mean, we're blessed to have some sort of fantastic contributors and people who've been around for many years. Peter Oakes and Phil Lanning and guys like that. And I mean, yes, you've got your guys at local tracks that we used to have. Many of them have been doing it for such a long time, and that it's a real asset to have that as well. And I think one of the good things probably in the last sort of few years is the emergence for some of the younger guys that we've had, like Dave Rowe and the people that work for Nigel Pearson's team. They do a fantastic job for us. So it's quite good to have some youth coming through as well as so some of the rest of us has been around for quite a while now.
And the look of the Speedway Star has changed, but also, I suppose, the way that you communicate with the people who are buying it will have changed because people's habits have changed over time. And now we're living in a hugely digital world. People can get results straight away, then get heat updates straight away from online. And the Speedway Star's had to adapt towards that.
I think it's probably like every magazine. Things have changed radically since, the sort of the digital age or whatever. I can remember I'm originally from Scunthorpe and supported Scunthorpe in the 70s, and you would have to buy Speedway Star to find out details of how they got on in away matches and what happened around the country, whereas now obviously people will know you can follow matches on the internet heat by heat. So how you kind of cover the things has changed in that people don't have to they don't buy Speedway Star specifically just to read the reports and things like that. So whereas before we were probably more of a news magazine, and now you tend to have to think a bit more, like if Poole race on a Wednesday, people know what's happened on Wednesday night at Poole. So we've got to put a different slant onto it. So when they're bearing in mind we're a weekly and we don't come out until the following week, you do need a different slant into that.
And looking back at 2020, of course, it wasn't the greatest year for anybody, but for Speedway, very little action, virtually none in the United Kingdom, and the bulk of the action that did happen was overseas, and particularly in Poland and the Grand Prix. How, as a weekly magazine that has, around about 50 pages to fill, do you manage to come up with the content to fill those pages week after week after week when really there's a fraction of the amount of action normally going on?
Yeah, so I guess it's just kind of a bit of forward planning in a way. You're trying to think of things, and we really have had to sort of think a bit outside the box and do a few different kind of interviews. We probably would not have covered the Polish League in as much depth ordinarily as we did last year, but people do identify with the Polish League now. You can watch it on TV on Premier Sports. So all the best riders in the world are there, as we all know. So it's maybe not like covering the Polish League it would have been in the 70s, where it would have been a lot of riders that nobody had really heard of. So that was a godsend to us last year when the Polish League got going, and then we got the GP coming on at the end. So there was stuff happening, but certainly early on in the year, probably April, May time last year, you sat there looking at 48 pages and thinking, well, we've got no sort of match reports, and we've got really not got a great deal of news likely to be happening. So we headed up going down a road of sort of more features and trying to do different style of features, and to some of the feedback we got from readers was surprisingly good. People were actually saying, well, the magazine's better now than when you have a season. So maybe a bit of food for thought for us for going forward, perhaps. I don't know. But there's always things you can think of. But we're aware that you don't want to become sort of a backtrack to, so to speak, and be totally retro, and so there's room for us to do that kind of stuff, but we have to balance it and mix it up with modern day stuff as well. So it's all about trying to strike that balance, really. Do
you have particular big Speedway Star super fans, people that collect every single episode since it ever began, or anything like that?
Oh yes, we do. Yes, definitely. We found that out when we had a few problems with our distribution from the subscriptions when we swapped over from using the news team service now, and inevitably there were a few teething problems to start with, which we hope we've got ironed out now, and everybody's getting their copy earlier and on time. But when we were having the problems, there were people ringing up saying that they've missed a copy, and they've got them in binders going back to the year dot and all this. So we are very much aware that there's people who do religiously take it every week. So it's that's great for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And when it comes to the stories that you personally have covered on the Speedway Star over your time with the publication, what's the one story that sticks in your memory the most?
I suppose you do so many over the years that they kind of all merge into one. But I remember interviewing, I knew Rob Woffington quite well, Ty's dad, obviously. He was probably one of the first riders I think he possibly was the first rider I ever interviewed when I first started back in 1982, 83. And so I'd known, obviously, Rob throughout his career. I used to get a lift with him to sort of Scunthorpe away matches in the 80s before Scunthorpe folded. And then we lost touch a bit when he emigrated to Australia, and then obviously fast forwarding to the current times, and they came back over with Ty and everything. And everybody will know, the story ended for Rob ended very tragically with his cancer. And I remember interviewing him, would have been about the November, I think, before he died early the next year. It was tough to do, I guess, is one way of putting it, because we both knew what was coming. But Neil Machin, the Sheffield promoter, was obviously good mates with Rob. He was there. We sat there for, an hour and a half, and Rob just came out with all these fantastic stories. And at the end of it, and when you read it back and you think, wow, he was excellent, really, for being able to talk about those things under the circumstances. So you do think, that was a good interview, yeah.
And the riders around that time, completely different breed to what we have now, and some of the things that they got up to and the situations they got themselves in. These days you wouldn't hear of it, would you? Some of the stuff.
Different times then, wasn't it? When the riders would have gone to the bar after the meeting and things like that, which obviously doesn't happen now, but it was a different era.
It was certainly a fun time in some
ways. It was, yes. And Rob was certainly, well, as I say, the best description that everybody applies to him is colourful character, and he was.
Yeah. And of course, Neil Machin, that's how he got into Speedway, isn't it? He befriended Rob Woofenden and became his mechanic. And
that's right, yes. And then with Tim Looking, ended up at Sheffield, and that was Sheffield's future for the next 20 or however many years Neil was there, yes.
Yeah, unbelievable. Fantastic stuff. And you made it through the pandemic. That's the main thing. And now into this season, and we're finally underway.
Thank goodness, yes. I don't envy the promoters the task that they've got on their hands at the moment, sort of trying to run a Speedway season with their hands tied behind the backs with all of the restrictions and this and that they have to deal with. But I think they've done a remarkable job just to get us up and running so far. Obviously, we've got a few issues in the last week with Birmingham and things, but hopefully we can see it through and get to the end of this year and then rebuild and take it from there.
Well, let's start with those restrictions, because that has been a big topic over the last week or so, and even as recently as Tuesday, with further news coming out of Wolves. The frustration, I think, among many fans and, of course, promoters is the difference and the disparity between some competitions. We're hearing that, for example, Wimbledon, the Wimbledon finals in a few weeks, will have a capacity crowd, 15,000 people on centre court with no social distancing. And yet we hear from Chris Van Straaten, and we're going to hear from him very soon, on some of the problems that he's been having, and other clubs as well, Newcastle, Birmingham, among a few of them, who have been voicing their concern really for the future of the club. And I think the main thing people want is a little bit of fairness and a little bit of common sense perhaps to be applied.
Well, exactly. That seems to be one of the problems, isn't it? There doesn't seem to be an across-the-board sort of one-size-fits-all, does it? Exactly like you say, you can have, I think, is it Ipswich can have 2,000, I believe, something like that, at Vauxhall, and then you've got, poor old Chris Van Straaten at Wolverhampton, and completely different restrictions. And I know, that you've got the issues over the online ticketing, where some clubs have to have it and can't sell at the turnstiles, and other clubs you can take cash at the turnstiles. And every club, obviously Glasgow hadn't been able to have any fans in full stop. So it really is if there was some kind of government decision on the whole thing where it applied to everybody, then it would be so much the better, wouldn't it? I think it would be very much easier for everybody.
Well, the latest news this week is that Wolverhampton have postponed their home meeting with Kings Lynn next Monday following the 4-week delay to lifting restrictions. Club owner Chris Van Straaten has made the move to preserve the short and long-term future of the club after heavy losses sustained in the opening 2 home meetings with severely restricted crowd numbers imposed by the local council. Now he's hoping to have successful talks with the council to increase the amount of people able to attend the meetings to a more sustainable level after leaving many fans disappointed when missing out on ticket sales. Chris Van Straaten has been speaking to BBC Radio WM.
I've been custodian of this club for 32 years, and it's important that it just doesn't collapse now. So we're having to take steps which are inconvenient to some people, cancelling the match at relatively short notice. But if it's to save the club in the long term, then we'll look back and think it was the right thing to do. If it doesn't all go on 19th of July, then I don't know where we'll go to. But I think the whole entertainment industry, so many people will be in the same boat. And sometimes the restrictions, when you see other events happening throughout the world, it just seemed a little bit too restrictive. So this is the point we'll be making to the City Council. Hopefully, we'll catch them at the right moment, and they'll be able to look at these figures while still, practicing the needs that arise in terms of social distancing and mask wearing, which we will cooperate with. We'll just see if we can increase our attendance just a little bit to at least reduce the losses before the 19th of July.
That's the Wolves owner, Chris Van Straaten, who there is cancelling the next home meeting, which was due to be on next Monday against Kings Lynn. The next home action at Monmore will be on the 5th of July, subject to successful discussions. And protecting the long-term future of the club, Andrew Skeels from the Speedway Star, is the right thing to do. We've seen too many clubs go by the wayside, even as recently as this year. And of course, over past years, it's been worse as well. So hanging on a few weeks, hopefully that's the right thing to do, and we can fully get back into business in the second half of this year and looking towards next season even. One
of the big problems we've had in the last few years, isn't it? It's the loss of a lot of your sort of mainstays of tracks like your Reading and Oxford and Coventry and Exeter and Newport, and then much more recently, we've lost Rye House and Lakeside and Workington, and then obviously we've had the news about Somerset this year. And you've got Swindon sitting it out. Hopefully they'll be back next year. But I mean, the last thing we need is to be losing more and more tracks. It starts to dwindle down. I mean, if the Premiership loses Wolves this year, I mean, hopefully that they can continue. But I mean, obviously we only started with 6 tracks. I mean, if you go down to 5, you do start to question whether that's even going to be a league, don't you? We're only one more than a 14 tournament, so it's but quite what you can do in the circumstances. I mean, I have every sympathy with Wolves and with Chris. It must be soul destroying. But what can they do? If you're hemorrhaging money and they're left with no choice, so quite know where this is going to lead, I don't know yet. We just have to hope that a way can be found for them to continue and see this season out at least, and then we can all regroup and start again in 2022.
Well, their near neighbours, Birmingham Speedway, have put their season on hold with immediate effect. Last week, club owners Peter and David Mason revealing that things have to change with numbers at Perry Bar for that club to become viable. Like other venues, the Brummies are restricted to the amount of fans that they can allow into the stadium. And as a consequence, they're suffering heavy losses. One situation's not been helped by the pay on the door option being temporarily suspended due to COVID regulations. Let's find out the thoughts of the club captain at the Birmingham Brummies. Chris Harris has been speaking with Ryan Guest.
A tough decision for the owners to put the season on hold temporarily, at least.
Yeah, it must have been a tough one for them. Especially only just starting after so long being off. But I can understand what they're saying. With the crowd and and paying on the gate. So hopefully they can get it sorted this week and we can get back to racing pretty soon.
Yeah, what was your own personal take when you heard the news? Because at the end of the day, it's a job for yourself.
Yeah, obviously, guys. Because obviously, I know when they get back running, we'll get them 4 meetings later on in the season. But it just don't pay the bills at the minute. But I'm not the only one, and a lot of people in that boat. So just hopefully they can resolve it and we get back racing. Yeah, they've been pretty frank and open, not just about the things that you mentioned to do with the crowd and the denial to accept walk-up admissions last week, but obviously with the vandalism just before the start of the season and the opening night fiasco as well, it hasn't been an ideal start to the season for the Brummies. No, it's been tough for them. It's a shame because the team spirit is good in itself and that, so hopefully they can get it sorted. They can get the crowd back in and pay at the gate and whatever they need to do, and we can get back to a winning race. Yeah, Birmingham is a club you've obviously got a lot of time for as well. You've obviously shown that by rejoining them for this season, and it is a club that's got a big part to play in British Speedway. Yeah, it's a good club. The track's it's a lovely shaped track, and when things are prepared right and everything's right, it's a good race track. So and I know Lawrence for many years as well. So and I've raced against David many times over the years, a long time ago now, but hopefully they can just get it all sorted and we can all get back racing. None of us want to see a club close or go, so hopefully we can all work together and we get it back.
Yeah, and a quick word, you mentioned the Perry Bar track there as well. Obviously there were a lot of problems opening night, but fair play, they changed the track team behind the scenes, and it really had improved last week.
Yeah, obviously there are a lot of obviously you said earlier the Vaseline and the equipment wasn't ideal, and then obviously with the weather plays a part, and you can only work with what tools you got, and now they've got obviously a better tractor and a better water system, and a bit more help on the track staff. Hopefully we can start preparing the track better and have some good racing.
Yeah, just finally, it's not just Birmingham. A lot of clubs are obviously talking about these hard decisions they're being forced with everything that's going on at the moment. But we have seen in the opening weeks of this British Speedway season that this sport has still got a lot to offer in this country. Yeah,
definitely. I wouldn't want to be a promoter, I know that, especially now. The decisions that they need to make, obviously, with different clubs and that. But hopefully we can all work together for a change and think of British Speedway.
Appreciate your time as always, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
The Birmingham Brummies captain Chris Harris there speaking with Ryan Guest, and best of luck to everybody at the Brummies, because obviously a very concerning time, not ideal, but as we mentioned before, that it's best to preserve the long-term future of a club than burn yourself into the ground. Some other news from the last week, we had news of a retirement of Tom Bacon, who has represented a number of clubs across British Speedway. Most recently was riding for Wolves as in the reserve berth, and he's decided to call it a day. He had a crash last week at Monmore in the Sheffield fixture, and he's said, well, he's had enough of getting injured and wants to call time on his career in the sport, which is a bit of a shame.
Well, that's right, yeah. Obviously, Tom's had some bad luck with some serious injuries in the past, and I mean, you do sort of wonder how some of the riders have had, sort of weren't have ridden since 2019 at all. So it's got to be pretty hard to come back from that. You're not just going to slot straight in. But having said that, he did seem to have some pretty reasonable scores, and I think for Kent last Tuesday, did he start with a win and a second, but then finished with 3 last. But for riders like that who have had some bad knocks in the past, then you can probably see where he's coming from and the decision he's made. But having said that, we don't particularly want to lose these guys, do we? We need riders. It's not as though we're overstacked with riders at the moment.
That's the voice of Andrew Skeels, who's the editor of the Speedway Star magazine. I'm Ian Brannan, and this is the official British Speedway podcast. So far in the podcast, then, we've been talking about the business side of clubs having to cope with various restrictions that have been put on them, really. But we've also spoken about Wolves, and we've spoken to Chris Harris. Well, let's put the two together quite neatly right now, because on Monday night in British Speedway's Premiership, it was Peterborough Panthers versus the Wolverhampton Wolves. And Chris Harris was on fine form as Peterborough charged up to second place in the Premiership table.
Pedersen has to get off the gas, lock up the inside and passes both here in one move. What a ride from Bjarne Pedersen. You'd think he'd be taking it easy. And watch out for Harris now. Oh, he's gone from last to second, and he's going to join Bjarne Pedersen. This is unbelievable from Chris Harris in heat number 13.
What a ride from Chris Harris. He was nowhere on the first lap.
It finished then 51-39 in favour of the Peterborough Panthers. Let's catch up with the Panthers boss, Rob Lyon.
Well, Rob Lyon, spoke to you last Monday after that big win over Kings Lynn. This was a much different win, nevertheless still equally as impressive against Wolverhampton.
Yeah, absolutely. It was always going to be a tricky fixture for us because Wolves have had a great start, and although we've been going good, 7 points on the road, 7 points last week, we didn't really want to be slipping up again at home. And I knew it'd be a tight meeting. I always felt we just had enough in the tank to win it, but knew it'd be tight, and it proved that way. Good team performance again. Bomber and Bjarne came to the party this week, and that's what it's all about. It's all about the whole team pulling together when they need to, and some riders are going to have an off night, some are going to have a better night, and that's how it goes. I think Wolves missed slightly tonight, if I'm honest, but to be fair, they used Becker in 2 of his rides, and he'd been flying most of the night. Ironically, the 2 rides he didn't go as well in were the RR rides, but that's the way it goes sometimes. RR can work really well for you, or it can go against you. So, we take it and move on to Ipswich next week.
Yeah, just a quick look at Bjarne Pedersen. You did mention him there, top scoring for the Panthers tonight. He admitted himself it hasn't been the easiest of returns to the top flight of British Speedway, but certainly reminded everyone of his qualities tonight.
Absolutely right, yeah. Such a professional rider, and he's come back, and I think it's 5 years since he rode here, to be fair, and he's good to work with. They all are, to be fair, and I'm pleased for him tonight because home track is where you build your confidence, and he had a bad first one, as we know, and was better last week, but tonight really came to the party. So a number one performance.
Yeah, and just finally, how important, how pleasing have these past 7 days been now?
Oh, tremendous. If you'd said to me last Monday that by the time we get to this Monday and we'll have taken 10 points, I'd be over the moon. I'd have snapped your hand off, and yeah, it's early days yet. There's a long way to go. I know it's a shortened season, but it's a long way to go, and we've just got to keep pushing, keep the boys focused, stay clear of any problems, and I think everybody can see that it's got so much solidity in that team that it's going to do damage at most tracks and certainly at home if we can keep it going. But yeah, that's the key, isn't it?
Many thanks for your time as always, Rob.
No problem, Ryan. Cheers.
It's Ryan Guest speaking with the Peterborough Panthers team boss, Rob Lyon. So what of Wolves then? They were without Rory Schlein and found things particularly difficult at the East of England Arena on Monday. Let's hear from the Wolves team boss, Peter Adams. He's been speaking with Mike Taylor from BBC Radio WM.
Peter, that was quite close for the first half of the meeting, and then it just seemed to get away from one or two of your riders.
Yeah, we weakened as the meeting went on, I thought, rather than, as is usual with us, we thought a strong start and we'd be able to maintain that. But no, we just had too many passengers today, not enough heat winners. And of course the 3 points we gained from the rider replacement riders is in no way reflective of what Rory would have scored. So a combination of that, few riders not at their best, and the rider replacement handicap was just too much against a very much informed Peterborough team.
Yes, I mean they did look in form. They're obviously very experienced. You did have a couple of riders who were particularly on form though. We saw Luke Becker again showing us what a talent he is, and is that the best of Ryan Douglas we've seen for quite a while? Yeah,
I think if you've got two riders in a Speedway team riding really well, you can always sort of stay in the game. But they just needed that bit of backup from somewhere, and it was nowhere to be seen, so that was the difference.
For a young man, Luke is very impressive. I noticed at Sheffield the other week, he didn't take long to dial himself in, and he's very competitive, and here he seemed to come on stronger as we were going on.
Yeah, he's developing, really quickly now. He's doing well in Poland, he's doing well here on tracks which he has very little experience of. So he's obviously got a very bright future, and hopefully that'll be with Wolverhampton for years to come.
I get the impression he's quite canny. He seems to learn very quickly.
Yeah, he's a bit resistant to change, I would say. But no, as long as he has his cottage pie for lunch, he's ready for anything.
I think we can all speak to that.
Absolutely. Aren't we all always ready with a bit of cottage pie, the secret ingredient in Broc Nichol's success? Well, Broc Nichol will be in action at the weekend. He's going to be taking part in the Grand Prix qualifier, which is taking place at Glasgow. We'll hear from Broc Nichol a little bit later on about taking on some of the world's big stars, including former world champion Chris Holder is also in that lineup as well, but more about that to come a little bit later on. Someone else who's going to be involved in that GP qualifier is Lewis Kerr, which is a bit of a surprise because he was under the knife for a broken collarbone not too long ago, just a matter of days ago. He's been having intensive treatment. We'll hear from the Kings Lynn boss Dale Allett on his chances of lining up in that GP qualifier as well a little later. Staying with Kings Lynn, they line up against Sheffield later this week in the Premiership, and one rider who's keen for a better performance than one of last week is Eric Riss, who against Peterborough failed to score a single point. He's been talking about that. He's been dwelling on it for quite some time.
I will think about Monday for probably another 3 weeks, yeah. You can't change the past, and yeah, it doesn't help if you dwell on it, but, I wish I could change it, I am that kind of person, like I look back and I don't like having that zero there, and I'll always remember that, Whenever I'm going to a race meeting, I want to win every race, and even like today, if I dropped a few points, like I'm angry at myself, and obviously, if I like on Monday I scored nothing, like I just felt so embarrassed, like for myself, and because I got high expectations of myself, and the club got expectations of me. I mean, I'm number one at Kings Lynn, you don't expect your number one to score nothing, so that was really hard to accept. Still struggle to accept it. As I said, I wish I could change it.
Kings Lynn versus Sheffield then is his chance to change that at the Adrian Flux Arena Thursday night in the Premiership. Still to come on No Breaks, No Fear, we're going to shift our attention to the Championship. We're going to talk a little bit about the favourite club of Andrew Skeels, who's joining us in this episode, the editor of the Speedway Star magazine, who is a Scunthorpe fan. Find out just exactly why he's a Scunthorpe fan very, very soon. We'll also hear from a few stars of Championship clubs. We're going to chat to Ulrich Ostergaard from Glasgow, Sam Masters from Edinburgh. We've also got Michael Palm Toft at Redcar, who were the first team to defeat the Glasgow Tigers last weekend. It's all to come here on No Breaks, No Fear.
No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome back. I'm Ian Brannan, and joining me in this episode is Andy Skeels, who is the editor of the Speedway Star magazine. Now, Andy's personal favourite club that he's a big fan of is Scunthorpe, which is great news for Rob Godfrey and Scunthorpe fans everywhere. Andy, what's your story of being a Scunthorpe fan then? Because they've had a few different guises, haven't they, Scunthorpe, over the years, getting to the point of the Scorpions now.
Well, that's right, yeah. We were the Saints when I first went in 1973 at Quibble Park, yeah, and the days of sort of Ken McKinley and Jack Bywater and Rex Garrett and Rod Haynes and names like that. Yes, so it seems, oh gosh, well, it is a lifetime ago now, isn't it? But I grew up watching them at Quibble Park and then at Ashbyville, and I moved to London in 1982, 83, I think, and then they closed in 85, and that was that until Rob Godfrey revived it at Eddie Wright Raceway, as it is now known, Normanby Road to start with. So I think the current incarnation has outlasted both of the Saints and the Stags combined, I think.
They've got a great situation there, haven't they, with the track that gets quite a lot of use beyond the league fixtures, of course, for practice, training and amateur meetings and things like that as well.
Well, that's right, yeah. I mean, I'm sure Rob will be the first to admit he's very lucky with the facility he's got there. And the council were very supportive when they first started. And I mean, it literally was built out of a field. Yeah, I think it was a model aeroplane club used it to start with. And so they built it up totally from scratch. I mean, it's not exactly Wembley or anything, obviously, but the racetrack is excellent. And I think this is kind of what Speedway's missing in a way, that part of our problems over the last few years have been a lot of the clubs closing have all been that don't own their own stadiums, do you? So it's a lot of the times it hasn't particularly always been financial. You've been booted out of the stadium. So we kind of need to maybe look at somehow trying to get more tracks like slightly out of town, like Scunthorpe is, where you can build them up. The more tracks that Speedway clubs can own, the better it's got to be. So maybe Scunthorpe. Well, we've had Somerset, and unfortunately that's just gone. But if you look around most of the other tracks, yeah, we're still tenants, aren't we? We're coexisting with greyhounds and stock cars, and quite often this is what causes the problems.
Let's take a trip around some of the teams in the Championship now, because we've had a few fixtures over the last week or so that really have caused a bit of debate, and particularly against Glasgow, because Glasgow have had such a strong start to the year, unbeaten until they met the Redcar Bears at the Media Prima Arena. First of all, let's speak to Ulrich Ostergaard, who's had a sensational season, really, riding for the Peterborough Panthers and the Glasgow Tigers, and has been virtually unstoppable, and riding at reserve, certainly at Peterborough. He's been a busy man. He's been speaking with Ryan Guest.
Ulrich Ostergaard, it's been such an impressive start to the season for Glasgow. Unfortunately, on Sunday, that did come to an end. What must have made it even more disappointing was the fact that you had that 8-point lead partway through the fixture.
Yeah, we were doing really well. We were leading up, all the way through pretty much. And so, of course, disappointed not to get the win up there. I feel we've got a really strong team as well, and we should be able to win at Redcar as well. It's a fair racetrack. Everyone likes to go there. But yeah, a few things went wrong in the last two heats, and they managed to win anyway. But we got a draw. We're still top of the league, and we keep pushing. And end of the season, that's where it matters anyway. So we just keep pushing. Yeah,
it really was a manic and testing week for the team as well, wasn't it?
It's a bit hectic, a bit crazy as well, but it's been good. That's what I wanted. I like to be busy. A lot of meetings every day, a lot of travelling, cleaning bikes and all that. But I got the good people helping me, and it makes things so much easier when you have that. So yeah, I've just been enjoying it really. I've been scoring the points and trying to be as relaxed as I could, and yeah, so far so good. The start of the season's been good.
Yeah, like you say, to be so frustrated, so disappointed with a first loss of the season, that just highlights the expectation of Glasgow.
Yes, of course. You know, we're sitting very much top of the league at the minute, and got 2 good away ones to Birmingham and Kent as well, and 1 our home ones as well. But you know, more wants more. We're a good team, and that's why we always want to win. You know, we're not really settled just for getting a draw or lose by 4 points anyway. We're here to try to do some damage, and it's good. That's what it's all about. I enjoy that. You know, I'm racing for 2 really good teams this season. 2 teams that want to try to win some silverware, and yeah, good pressure, and hopefully it can work out in the end.
Yeah, for the Tigers in the Championship as well, you've had a lot of solid scores, 7 or 8s, and then at Birmingham on Wednesday, red car on Sunday. Nice to get some Heat 15s thrown into the mix as well.
Yes, of course it is. It's always a bit of a bonus when you get Heat 15 because it means you've done a decent job. So that's what I'm there for anyway. As I said, we got a strong team, so there's always going to be some good ones in Heat 15. So whenever I can be in it, it's a bonus, and I'm there to try to help the team and try to get some wins, and yeah, so far it's been alright, and yeah, we'll be alright again, even though we lost on Sunday.
Yeah, and they were beaten by the Red Car Bears, who are fancied to have a very decent season if they keep their lineup all together and injury-free. It came down to a last heat decider. 2 5-1s on the bounce eventually settled it. Here is the main Dane from the Red Car Bears, Michael Palmtoft, with Ryan.
Well, yeah, Michael Palmtoft, quite a crucial, important weekend for Red Car with 2 big wins. Let's just start with Sunday against Glasgow, a terrific comeback, and obviously a great way to end Glasgow's unbeaten run.
Yeah, that was really good to get one over Glasgow and finally get my bike problems out the way, so I could score some points.
Yeah, for the team as well, like I say, not just to end Glasgow's unbeaten run, but to come from 8 points down at the mid-stage of the meeting as well, that probably made it even more impressive.
Oh, 100%. I saw the promoter, Chitrendra, he was absolutely bouncing up and down when they won the Heat 15 and we got the win.
Yeah, add that to the victory at Berwick 24 hours before as well, and like I said, that really does make it an important weekend for Red Car.
Oh, 100%. Like it shows that we can win away and at home. Obviously, my performance has not been very good away. Some bike problems, and it definitely didn't help the team, but everybody else pulled together and we got the win.
Yeah, it wasn't the easiest of starts to the season for Red Car. A lot of people expect a lot of things from the Bears this season, but do you think this weekend was finally where the Bears started to fulfil the potential and can kick on from here?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, we got 2 very good reserves. We got a really strong team through and through, but when you got a bit of bike problems and so on, which I think we've all had so far, everybody's not clicking on all the cylinders, so when everybody is firing together, we're definitely going to be a force.
Yeah, and like you say, with that solid 1-7 with the reserves in form as well, it has taken a little bit of pressure off yourself with those bike problems that you've spoke about, but like you say, now you hopefully got to the bottom of those, and hopefully you can pick up your individual performances as well.
Yeah, very much hope so. Like I started the season very well, so yeah, hopefully it's fixed and we can get going again.
So that's Michael Palmtoft from the Red Car Bears speaking with Ryan Guest. And meanwhile, whilst Glasgow fell to their first defeat, it was an astonishing night at Eastbourne this last weekend as Edinburgh What the Fork Monarchs pulled off one of their most remarkable results for many years, winning 46-44 at Eastbourne, their first ever victory at the Arlington Stadium. Nearly a 1,000-mile round trip. It made it a lot sweeter for team boss John Campbell. We've been speaking with one of the stars of the Edinburgh Monarchs. Here's Sam Masters with Ryan Guest.
Well, yeah, we'll discuss it meeting by meeting shortly, but as a summary, what a weekend for the Monarchs.
Yeah, it was good. I think it's sort of shocking a lot of people, especially the fans up there. I don't know if they thought we'd be doing this good, but still a long season, so hopefully we can keep doing what we're doing and get to the playoffs.
Yeah, looking at that Friday night, Leicester were pushing you all the way, but then to get those 5-1s in each 14 and 15 and send the defending champions home with nothing, that must have been really pleasing, especially in Heat 15, considering they had the choice of gate positions.
Yeah, that was a good meeting, I think, to watch as well, and good for the home fans that we could finish them off in Heat 15 like that and send them away with nothing, because they've probably got the strongest team in the league on paper, and they showed it on the night, really. So the score probably didn't really reflect on how good they were. But we just made 2 good starts in the heat 15 off the 2 worst gates, and that wins your means, I suppose.
Yeah, another tough test followed on Saturday with the long trip down to Eastbourne as well. Dramatic stuff there as well, but yourself and Josh just about doing enough in the end with Carl Newman's engine failure to claim the first ever win at Eastbourne for the Monarchs.
Yeah, we got lucky in the end, but we took that with both hands and we were there to take that. So, but we were all pretty good all night, and everyone was doing their job, so... Nathan Greaves was pretty impressive. I don't know what he scored in the end, but he was always there and picking up points when needed, and he's actually been doing that for us all year, so that's good.
Yeah, all round it's been a more than encouraging start to the season for the Monarchs, unbeaten in 4, and reading the comments from people in the camp, it seems like there's something of a special team atmosphere growing already early doors.
Yeah, it's good. Everyone's getting on pretty well, which is nice, and I think we've beat the 2 hardest teams in the league, Redcar and Leicester at home now. So, we can keep doing that, then it's going to be a nice season, I think. So, but we can't talk too soon. We've just got to take it meeting by meeting. Everyone's had a year off as well, so once everyone's fully back into the swing of things, might be a little bit of a different story, but we'll take it while we can.
Sam Masters chatting with Ryan Guest, and he was involved in that last heat decider at Eastbourne and ended in favour of the Edinburgh Monarchs 46-44. So let's take a look at the upcoming fixtures in the week ahead in the Championship. Well, first of all, actually not a fixture in the Championship, but a Championship side. It's Redcar who are going to be hosting the British Under-21 semi-final. That is this Thursday at 7:30. That was rearranged from Newcastle. They had arranged it for Sunday and had low ticket sales, and they're another club who are suffering financially. They've had a terrible start to the season, a lot of bad luck, and they too have got a crowdfunding page going on at the moment to keep the Newcastle Diamonds in existence, which of course we wish them all the best with. And they took the decision to call off that hosting of the British Under-21 semi-final. Redcar are going to do it on Thursday. Elsewhere in the Championship, Leicester host Redcar, a team that, as we know, beat Glasgow just last weekend, did Redcar, the first team to defeat them. And Leicester, of course, reigning champions, albeit a year in lieu, and they take each other on at 7 o'clock on Saturday. And elsewhere in the Championship, we've got Newcastle against Leicester on Sunday at 4 o'clock, and Scunthorpe versus Glasgow also on Sunday. That's a 3 o'clock in the afternoon fixture, so if the weather's decent, that'll be pretty nice there, of course, as well. And British Youth Championships continue at Scunthorpe also on Sunday, and that's a fixture straight after the Scunthorpe versus Glasgow fixture. And speaking of Glasgow, at Ashfield Stadium this weekend, a massive fixture. It is the FIM Speedway World Championship qualifier at Glasgow, with the ultimate prize at the end of everything being a place in the Grand Prix Challenge, or of course if you come in the top 3 of that, you're in the GP Series next year. A strong field at the Ashfield Stadium features Brits Lewis Kerr, Charles Wright and Dan Bewley. We'll also hear from another star, Glasgow star Broc Nichol, who gets the chance to race on one of his home tracks for a position in that prestigious meeting later this season. We're going to hear from Broc Nichol very soon, and we'll also hear from Dale Allett on the chances of Lewis Kerr, who's coming back from fairly recent collarbone surgery, to take his place in that meeting. All on the way on No Brakes, No Fear.
No Brakes, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
You're listening to No Brakes, No Fear, part of the Sports Social Podcast Network, where you can find your next favourite podcast. And with the Euros now in full flow, there's a heap of podcasts dedicated to that very topic. You can find them all in a special section at sport-social.co.uk. And there's more Speedway content available as well, with Humans of Speedway, which is hosted by me. So check that one out at your leisure, part of the Sports Social Podcast Network. Right now, we're turning our attention to a big fixture which is happening at Glasgow this weekend, on Saturday, in fact, when a really strong field at the Ashfield Stadium gets together, and their ultimate prize is a place in the Speedway Grand Prix Challenge later this season. Now, this is drawing a fabulous crowd of riders from all over the world, and here is the full lineup. Lewis Kerr, Kerr, Stephen Gorrett, Broc Nichol, Bradley Wilson-Dean, Charles Wright, one rider TBC but registered to Argentina, Nikolai Klint, Tero Arnio, Tobias Musilak, Eric Riss, Chris Holder, former world champion no least, Dan Bewley, Max Rummel, Lasse Fredriksson, Rasmus Jensen and Jaimun Lidsi, and reserves on the day, Tom Brennan and Drew Kemp. So a cracking lineup this. Andrew Skeels joins me from the Speedway Star. He's the editor of the Speedway Star, and fantastic to have such stars all getting together for a big individual meeting here in the UK.
Well, it will do, definitely. I mean, it's sort of a real feather in the cap for Glasgow to get these meetings, isn't it? And it sort of reflects really well on what they've done at the stadium. I think I've only ever been there once personally. It was probably about year 2000, so we're talking 20 years ago. But obviously the stadium has been transformed with, from what you see, and the fantastic work they've done there. And this is exactly what we need at some of our stadiums, isn't it? Bringing them up to the sort of 21st century. So it obviously gives them the opportunity to stage these sort of plum fixtures at FIM level as well.
It's going to be very interesting. A few ex-Glasgow riders involved there. Of course, Dan Bewley, not least, a lot of experience around that Glasgow track as well. We're going to hear from Dale Allett very soon because Lewis Kerr is drawn as number one in that fixture. And despite having some collarbone surgery only a matter of days ago and having intensive treatment, he plans to take his position in that lineup. So we'll hear from Dale Allett very soon. First of all, though, let's hear from Broc Nichol because he put in a tremendous performance at Wolves on the TV on Monday night. He lines up in this fixture at Glasgow. Glasgow, his home track in the championship, and he must really be fancying a chance of at least having a crack at getting into the Grand Prix challenge later in the season. He's been speaking with Ryan Guest.
Well, yeah, Broc Nichol, a really big occasion for yourself this Saturday. Not only a Grand Prix qualifier, but a Grand Prix qualifier at your home championship track as well.
Yeah, I was really happy when they gave me the news that I was back at Glasgow for the qualifier. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm feeling good this year at that track, starting to get dialed in now. So yeah, looking forward to going in, just having some fun and seeing what I could do.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect an easy lineup in such a prestigious meeting as well. And when you look down the 16 riders, including yourself, who are going to be involved on Saturday, it really does show you that it's going to be one tough occasion.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough meeting, especially with the names that are in it that I've seen. So yeah, it's going to be a hard one, but that's what makes me a better rider, and that's when I learn the most. So if I could go out there and just keep riding like I have been and make some starts, yeah, hopefully I'll come out with a good meeting.
Yeah, with the quality of riders on display as well, and the quality that the Ashfield circuit can serve up for those fans who are lucky enough to be able to view it. It is going to be one hell of a race meeting as well.
Yeah, definitely the track at Glasgow. It's one of the best in my opinion, and yeah, it creates such good racing and awesome stadium, awesome atmosphere. So yeah, Glasgow know what they're doing and they run an awesome program. So yeah, I'm glad we're at Glasgow.
Yeah, for any rider as well, when you're setting out in the sport, the Grand Prix series is the ultimate goal, and you must feel privileged to be able to represent your country.
Yeah, for sure. It's that's what I look forward to almost the most in Speedway, is riding for my country. There's no other feeling that you get from doing that. So yeah, looking forward to it, and yeah, just want to go out there and have fun and just learn as much as I can, take as much as I can away from the meeting, and keep going forward.
Well, we wish you all the best for Saturday, Broc.
Perfect, thank you.
Lining up for the United States in that FIM Speedway Grand Prix World Championship qualifying round at Glasgow on Saturday. That is Broc Nichol, racing on, of course, his home track of Glasgow, one of his home tracks. And he's not the only American in the fixture either, because he'll be joined by Max Rummel for the USA, also in that meeting. Now, someone who's representing Great Britain is Lewis Kerr. Lewis Kerr suffered a broken collarbone just less than 2 weeks ago, racing for Eastbourne. Now, last Friday, he had an operation to plate his collarbone. He's been receiving treatment ever since to aid his recuperation. And then just over a week since having surgery on a broken collarbone. Lewis Kerr is planning on lining up in that Grand Prix qualifier at Glasgow. Let's hear from his team boss at Kings Lynn, Dale Allett, on the situation and Lewis Kerr's plans.
Well, yeah, Kings Lynn co-promoter Dale Allett. Big night for Louis Kerr on Saturday. And when you consider everything he's been through over the last couple of weeks, quite remarkable that he's even going to attempt to ride in that fixture.
Yeah, absolutely. He had a injury plated at the hospital on Friday afternoon. He's been to Brian Simpson's today and had quite a lot of laser treatment and other bits and pieces. He's been there all day. So see how he turns around tomorrow and the next few days. And what I will say, if anybody can make it work, it's Louis. He's probably one of the fittest riders in the country. So fingers crossed, and he can fulfil the fixture. And big night for him, as you say.
Yeah, when you consider everything he's been through throughout his career and the injuries he has sustained, certainly has got a lot of determination in his character.
Yeah, he has, and like I say, he's one of the fittest and one of the mentally strongest riders. I mean, as you pointed out, he's been through an awful lot, come back from an awful lot, and he's probably having, I would dare say, up to date, the best season of his career. So hopefully everything goes well. Like I say, it's a massive meeting, and certainly one that he knows well, Glasgow, having ridden there for a season. And if he can get there and he can do it fitness wise, then he's got a chance, because he can gate probably better than anyone.
Certainly one hell of a lineup he's going to be involved in, though.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a massive tough meeting, isn't it? Whoever you are and however fit you are. These meetings aren't easy by their very nature, but just to be involved in it is, a credit to him. But like I say, if he's there and he's fit and he can make the gates, then he's got a good chance of anyone.
OK, that's Dale Allett there speaking with Ryan Guest about Lewis Kerr's decision to take his place at Glasgow for the Speedway Grand Prix qualifier. Elsewhere in the qualifiers, Robert Lambert competes in the Croatian fixture, which is at Gorichan, and Adam Ellis races at the Italian venue of Terenzano. There's 4 qualifiers in all, and then I believe it's the top 4, I think, go through to the final Grand Prix challenge later in the season. Of course, you finish in the top 3 of that, you're in the Speedway Grand Prix. Simple as that. So good luck to all the boys taking part. And ride safe, of course. That's what we want. And some great racing for any of the fans who are able to make that. By the way, the Glasgow fixture, if you can't get a ticket to be there, because numbers are pretty limited, Glasgow Tigers are doing a live stream of that event, I believe, as well. So you can watch that wherever you are. Some great racing, some great names involved in it. Right, before we go, let's turn our attention to the National Development League, shall we? Because there's quite a bit of NDL action this week, whereas last week there was very little, if not none. And let's have a look at the Eastbourne Seagulls, who are going to be in action a couple of times. They're going to be racing against Kent on Saturday, and then they're back in action on Sunday away at Mildenhall. One of the stars of the Eastbourne Seagulls is Jake Knight. He's been chatting with Ryan Guest.
Well, yeah, Jake Knight, a big weekend coming up for the Seagulls. First and foremost, it's the first home fixture in front of the Seagulls home fans on Saturday.
Yeah, it's a lot. It seems strange to have your first home meeting not until sort of really mid-June, actually. But yeah, we've had a couple of away meetings which have been really good. We've got results from both. We've not had an away meeting that we haven't got points from. And realistically, we should have probably won at Kent away. So, but yeah, I think this year with no playoffs in the National League, I think it's so important to actually get points away from home, whether it's a draw, even 1 point. You've just got to, on the road, you've got to get a point away.
Yeah, and as you've touched upon there, to get 1 at the reigning champions Leicester and then 2 at Kent certainly bodes well for the rest of the year.
Yeah, definitely. I think even really Leicester, if Henry hadn't got injured, I think we probably even could have drawn or even won that meeting the way it was going at the start. So, but yeah, it's sort of, I think people sort of had us up at the top, but didn't really expect us to be doing as well as we did. And I think even from my perspective, looking at other sides, there's sides doing better than what I thought they were going to do, and it's boding well for a good season, I think, at the minute, and having tough challenges at home and away.
Yeah, you've touched upon the injury to Henry Atkins. The club did move swiftly to get a replacement in, and while Henry has probably got more potential than Dano Verge, Dano certainly brings a lot of experience to the side.
Yeah, definitely. I think Dano's been around a while as well, and he's sort of been there and thereabouts to be like a heat leader as such. And I think this year, being at Eastbourne as well, you got such a good home track advantage to sort of get your confidence up, to take that away with you to away meetings as well. I think that's what it sort of bodes well for as well. And like I said, we've got a good team environment at the minute. Like, we're all sort of, well, we got like the youngsters, and then we're all sort of like there and thereabouts with age-wise, some of us. But yeah, it's good really. The team spirit seems like amazing again. So we all get there, have a laugh, and I think that's the most important thing, is not to take it too seriously. Yes, you've got to take it seriously, but if you can go to the meeting and enjoy it, I think really that's where you get the results from.
Yeah, just finally looking back to this weekend, we mentioned the Kent home fixture, and you've touched upon the importance of the away meetings. You've got one of those on Sunday at Mildenhall, and that's going to be their first home team meeting of the season as well, so hopefully you can take full advantage of that fact.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to having the first sort of home meeting. Like, I've only done one practice at Eastbourne in like 3 years at the minute, so it's going to be weird having a home meeting there. So yeah, but it'd be nice, and especially it being Mildenhall's first home meeting of the season, we've sort of really got to take full advantage of that we've all had like 2 meetings previously to sort of again get a result. We don't, like, Mildenhall's one of those places that we don't seem to really have that great results at, but it's one of those ones that now we've got to change the trend and get some points from it.
That's Jake Knight speaking with Ryan Guest. Can we have a round of applause for Ryan Guest? He's been a very busy guy this week, interviewing stars up and down the country at all those different tracks. How does he do it? Unbelievable stuff. Well done, Ryan. And good luck to Jake Knight as well, because they've got a busy week of Eastbourne, actually. Quite a few meetings crammed in. Let's run through the National Development League fixtures. Wednesday, it's Leicester versus Mildenhall. We've also got that British Under-21 semi-final at Redcar as well, at similarly to that level. Quite a few riders at NDL level involved in that. And then on Saturday, we've got Armadale versus Bellevue, and Berwick versus Newcastle, and Eastbourne versus Kent. And then on Sunday, Mildenhall versus Eastbourne, and Newcastle versus Leicester. And that's pretty much it for the National Development League. We've also got the British Youth Championship at Scunthorpe, which follows the main fixture on Sunday at 5 o'clock. British Youth Championships round with the 125cc and 500cc's involved here. In fact, it says on my script 1500cc's. Blimey, can you imagine that? I think that's a misprint. Definitely 500cc. That's Speedway, isn't it? So thanks for listening. We will be back with you next week here on No Breaks, No Fear. My thanks to Andrew Skeels, the editor of the Speedway Star magazine. Thanks for joining us. What's in this week's episode of the Speedway Star, Andrew?
Oh, blimey. We've got an interview with Jason Crump, with Troy Batchelor, Leon Flint. I can't remember. That's it. So much coming in, yes.
Yeah.
We're starting work on it very shortly, yes.
Very, very good, very good. That's excellent. Well, no, brilliant stuff. Thanks, Andy, and no
problem. Yeah.
All the best for the rest of the season.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, Ian. Cheers.
Brilliant stuff. Look forward to it. Thanks for joining us, Andy. And of course, keep up to date with everything that's happening in British Speedway online. SpeedwayGB.co.uk is the place to go for all the latest results and fixtures and latest news from your team. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next Tuesday. Another episode available at 8 p.m. Don't miss it. We'll have all the reaction from the Monday night fixtures and whatever else happens over the next 7 days. We wait and we wonder. Thanks for joining us. No Breaks, No Fear is a Nigel Pearson Media Limited production for British Speedway.
No Breaks, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Sports Social Podcast Network.